Today I am going to discuss about distribution of groundwater in the earth crust. It is also called by the name vertical distribution of the groundwater in the earth crust. We are going to find surface water bodies like rivers, creeks, ponds, canals, brooks. There are many kinds of freshwater bodies as well as marine water bodies like seas and oceans. In addition to these things, we are also going to find subsurface water. How this water, particularly the precipitated water, when it enters into the ground through the surface, how it occupies in the soil or in the rock body. Any geologic unit comprises a cover of topsoil. Below this topsoil, weathered zone. Below this weathered zone, there must be impermeable basement or impermeable bed. The geological unit comprises these three things. Any geologic unit comprises a cover of topsoil, a weathered zone, and an impermeable basement rock. The crust, where do we find? Weathered, in which we are going to find the groundwater. Water can stay only in the upper part of the earth crust. Below this impermeable bed, we can't able to find water, even though if we find the water, we do not extract. Very lesser amount of water can be extracted from the ground. Just above the impermeable basement. Water which is present above the impermeable basement, that can be extracted. Water present in the zone of saturation of a lithostratum is called by the name groundwater. What is groundwater? Water which is present in the zone of saturation. What is zone of saturation and what is zone of aeration? What we observed already, topsoil, weathered zone and impermeable bed. In this region, we are going to find voids or pore spaces, which means interstices. For example, if it is the geologic unit, definitely that comprises number of openings, which means interstices. These openings are called by the name pores or voids or interstices. In these openings, we are going to find the water. The water which is present in these openings, we do not able to extract when they are not interconnected. If they are interconnected from the conduits or from the pathways, then the water can be extracted. If they are interconnected, then they will act as conduits or pathways for the movement of groundwater from one place to another place. Water can take place movement from here to here when these two voids are interconnected with the help of conduits or pathways. If there is no conduit, definitely that water which is present in these openings does not able to take place movement. The groundwater is available up to 750 meters depth from the surface of the earth, below which it decreases in amount because that the rock are well compacted by pressure due to overburden material. Occurrence of groundwater is divided into two major zones. They are zone of aeration, number 1. Number 2, zone of saturation. What is zone of aeration? The zone between the ground surface to the depth of water table is called as zone of aeration. This region is called by the name zone of aeration. What is zone of aeration? The zone between this is the ground surface, this is the water table. What is the zone of aeration? The zone between the ground surface, this is the ground surface and this is the water table. The zone between the ground surface and the water table is called by the name zone of aeration. This zone is also called by the name vadose zone. Zone of aeration is also called by the name vadose zone or unsaturated zone. Why it is called by the name unsaturated? Here also we are going to find voids. Voids means pore spaces, vacant places. The voids which are present in this region are partially filled by air molecule and partially filled by water molecule. In this region, which means in zone of aeration, we are going to find interstices, which means voids. Voids means pore spaces. Water which is present in these openings in the zone of aeration is called by the name suspended water. Here, voids which are present in this region are partially filled by water molecule and partially filled by air molecule. The water which is present in this region, which means in the zone of aeration, is called by the name suspended water, which is also called by the name Vadose water. This zone is further subdivided into three zones, which are soil water zone, soil moisture zone, intermediate vadose zone, capillary zone, the last one. What is soil moisture zone or soil water zone? How do we explain? When it is ground surface, when totally togetherly called by the name zone of aeration, the uppermost portion of the zone of aeration is called by the name soil water zone or soil moisture zone. The thickness varies from few inches to a maximum of 20 meters. The thickness of this soil water zone is depending upon what type of vegetation do we find on that particular terrain. It covers the root zone of plants and plays a vital role in agricultural development. The role of infiltration. What is infiltration? How the water gets entered towards the water table through this zone. The role of infiltration is mainly depending upon physico-chemical characteristics, which means conditions of this soil water zone. What is infiltration? Infiltration is a process from which water enters the ground through the soil surface and moves towards the groundwater table. The second one is intermediate vadose zone. This zone extends from the lower edge of the soil water zone to the upper limit of capillary zone. In areas where this water table lies close to the ground surface, where do we find the water table at a shallow depth? Definitely the intermediate vadose zone may be absent. In areas of deep water tables, intermediate zone may attain more than 100 meters thickness. Particularly in which areas we are going to find deep water tables. There only this intermediate vadose zone attain more than 100 meter thickness. Lastly, capillary zone. What is capillary zone? Capillary zone extends from the water table up to the intermediate vadose zone. The lower part of this capillary zone is fully saturated, which means the voids which are present in the lower part of the capillary zone are completely filled by water molecule. The next one is zone of saturation. What is zone of saturation? The zone extends between this water table up to the depth of impermeable basement. Is called by the name zone of saturation. What is zone of saturation? The zone between the water table, this is the water table, and up to the depth of impermeable bed is called as zone of saturation or phreatic zone, which is also called by the name phreatic zone. Here also we are going to find voids. Here also we are going to find voids. Here in the zone of saturation, the interstices are completely filled with water molecule under hydrostatic pressure. The upper surface of the zone of saturation is represented by water table. Thus, the water table acts as boundary between the zone of aeration and zone of saturation. Water which is present in the zone of saturation is called by the name groundwater. Or phreatic water. What is phreatic water? Groundwater is also called by the name phreatic water. What is phreatic zone? The zone which lies between water table and up to the depth of impermeable basement is called by the name zone of saturation or phreatic zone. This water table does not remain constant. It rises and falls with respect to recharge and discharge of groundwater. When it is recharged, definitely the water table rises up. When water is extracted from this zone of saturation, then it goes down, which means the static water level is depending upon discharge and recharge. The water table is parallel to the topography of the region. That is, under hills, how it appears? The water table also appears in the form of mound-shaped structure. Where the area is level ground, this water table, this is water table, this is topography of the region. Here the water table is parallel to the topography, parallel to the level ground. Under hill station, it is mound-shaped structure. Under valley, how it appears? It also appears in the form of valley-shaped structure. That's why, while seeking the groundwater, which area is suitable? At the mound-shaped structure, the water table appears at the greater depth. Here at the level ground, the water table also parallel to the topography of that particular region. Here also it has higher depth. But when we come to the valley region, here the water table appears very close to the ground surface. Instead of seeking water at the hill station as well as level ground, better to seek at the valley region. Then what about this impermeable basement rock? Here this impermeable basement, sometimes made up of shale, clay, solid limestone or solid igneous rocks or bedrocks. This zone of saturation is also called by the name unconfined aquifer. What is aquifer? Water holding and yielding capacity of the geologic unit. That is called by the name unconfined aquifer. Very simple. This is the area which is called by the name zone of aeration. This is the area between water table and impermeable basement is called by the name zone of saturation. Water which is present in the zone of aeration is called by the name suspended water or vadose water. Water which is present in the zone of saturation is called by the name groundwater or phreatic water. What we have to understand in this case, particularly what is groundwater? The water which is present in the zone of saturation is called by the name groundwater. Groundwater is also called by the name phreatic water.